Welcome into Hockey Sense, everybody. How are we today? Happy New Year, 2025. Our first show of 2025. Looking forward to this one. Jeff Marek's going to join me from the sheet from the DFO platform. We got a lot of stuff to get into with Jeff, specifically the World Junior Championships. Listen, we'll probably talk about some NHL stuff. You can't go through everything. We're not going to have time to get into Austin Matthews' injury, when they're going to have him back, and everything else that's taking place around the NHL. I do want to get into the Blues a little bit here, man. I mean, coming off of that Winter Classic, it was just an incredible atmosphere, a great environment. And I will say about the Winter Classic, it is so much better when your team is involved and when you're watching in person. I think when you watch it on television, it used to be appointment television. You knew it was January 1st, or in this case, December 31st, and the Winter Classic was going to be on when it was new. You wanted to see what it would look like in some of these iconic venues, and Wrigley Field would fall in that category as being an iconic venue, just an incredible place to watch a hockey game. And it's not about how much you can see, it's just being there. There really isn't a seat in the house that you would say, wow, this is an incredible viewing experience. You're not there for the viewing experience. Although where I sat, I could see probably 90 to 95% of the ice. I mean, there were little sections in the corners, maybe where you couldn't get a feel, but that's where they have the big jumbotrons, the big video monitors, and you just peek, take a look, and you're like watching it on a big screen television, albeit a little bit of a delay. But it doesn't take anything away from the experience and how much you enjoy it. I mean, this is where you create memories. I took my 8-year-old son, his first Winter Classic. I've been to a couple of these now, and it was his first one. And listen, this is something that he'll never forget. He absolutely loved it. Just the whole experience, taking the train down to the game in Wrigley Field. And how many Blues fans were there was just absolutely incredible. And maybe the fact that I was in a Blues section, had a lot of families around me, made it feel like it was heavy Blues. But I just felt like Blues fans showed up and really, were heard throughout the course of the game. I was talking to some players yesterday how emotional they were heading out to the ice, listening to the national anthem and seeing the planes fly over. Very emotional for the players. I mean, just to be in an event like that, they loved it. And I don't think they loved the experience in Minnesota. I think they liked it. They won the game. They've got great memories from that. But when you talk to players about their experience playing in the Minnesota game, all they talk about was how cold it was and whatnot. I mean, it's just super, super cold. In my opinion, too cold to play an outdoor game. Even Jordan Binnington didn't wear any gloves underneath his actual catching glove or his blocker, talking about the Blues goaltender. But he did layer up underneath his uniform. Felt like he could move. But again, it's just so cold. And obviously it wasn't that cold in Chicago. It could have been. I mean, Chicago weather, man, you just never know what it's going to be. And it was rainy throughout the day, but the rain held off once the game got started. So obviously the weather gods and the hockey gods were looking over Wrigley Field on New Year's Eve. But again, I'm glad I went. I'm glad I took my family. I'm glad that we got to take in that experience. And I'm glad the Blues won. They're 3-0 now in Winter Classic games. And a lot of players had some great individual performances. When you think about Cam Fowler, obviously playing in his 1,000th game and scoring a couple of goals. Justin Falk having a 3-point game. You were waiting for a guy like Falk to bust out. He's had some chances. He's had some shots. He's been running the power play. He can be a little bit frustrating at times because you do expect that level of production on a more frequent basis. I mean, he's in position and he's on the ice all the time in offensive zone situations and on the power play, like I mentioned. At some point, you do have to produce. I mean, it's not an option. It really is a requirement. So it was good to see him, really put it together in, on a big stage. And, same with Cam Fowler. What he's meant to this team and how he's fit in has just truly been remarkable. I mean, he's slotted everybody down probably where they belong, Justin Falk included. Without Nick Leddy, Falk can now settle in on that second pair, be more of a 4 versus a 2. You got Broberg, obviously, doing his thing, who's been pretty consistent. I think Tyler Tucker has come in. He's found his groove playing with a veteran guy like Ryan Suter. I mean, the Blues defense looks good. And it's interesting. You talk to people around the league who watch them play on the big stage and they say, this looks like a playoff team. And yeah, it does, but they've got some work to do. And one thing you can't do, you can't lose at home to teams like Buffalo. Those are tough losses. I didn't think the Blues played terrible in that game, to be honest with you. They threw a bunch of shots on net. It wasn't like they were perimeter either. I mean, I thought they got to the inside. Maybe not as much as you would like, but they got to the inside and they just couldn't find a way to score. And maybe their eyes were on the Winter Classic a little bit too prematurely. So throw that game away. Tonight they play Ottawa. Looking forward to the game tonight. Brady Tkachuk in town. He had some comments for his team after the game. They got outplayed badly against the Dallas Stars. Got outshot badly. Didn't put up much of a fight. Brady called his team's performance embarrassing. Said it was embarrassing. Said he's happy they get to go out and play tonight. So they're going to have an angry team in the Ottawa Senators that they're going to have to face tonight after the way they played on Wednesday or Thursday night in Dallas. But again, there's just a lot of positive signs. This guy Alexander Texier. Listen, if you've been watching Hockey Sense since we've moved it over here to the Half Coast Studios, and you can check us out on YouTube every single week. But if you watch Hockey Sense, you've heard me coming into the season say that Alexander Texier was the most intriguing player for me in training camp. I mean, you talk to scouts around the league, there were more teams who were pushing for their team to sign or trade for and then ultimately sign Texier. Scouts who have watched him felt like he was an untapped offensive potential or offensive player, just in terms of what he brings to the table. He had 30 points last season in a relatively limited role. He's had some personal obstacles that he's had to overcome. He left the NHL to go back over to Europe for a full season, and he's getting more and more comfortable here in St. Louis. I know they're using him in different spots. They've had him up the lineup. They've had him down the lineup. They had Brandon Saad playing with Thomas and Buchnevich the last couple of games. But Texier is a guy who's finding a way to contribute even when he's not playing with the big dogs up top. He's got points in 4 straight. He had a goal and an assist in the Winter Classic. He's playing with confidence. He's got a heavy stick. He's a good skater. He's skilled, vision, shooting. This guy really has more tools than I think people realize. And I still think he's an untapped player in terms of what his offensive potential is. And I think that's the challenge for Jim Montgomery and the coaching staff, is to really get this guy to reach that potential on a consistent basis, show what you can do, and be a go-to impact player game in and game out for the St. Louis Blues. If they can get that out of him, man, this guy, again, the sky is the limit for Texier. He is so skilled. He is so fun to watch. He does these little plays in practice where he catches pucks off his skates, kind of lifts up one skate, catches it off the inside skate, kicks it to his stick, can do a little reverse kick to his stick. Like he does some things that if you really pay attention to him, you'll notice over the course of a practice where he just has next level skill. And now you just want to see him put it all together, and it looks like he's starting to do that. That's a real positive sign. The rest of the group, from Buchnevich to Thomas to Kyrou to Neighbors to Holloway, I mean, these guys are all playing at a high level. Walker's playing at a real high level. I love how coaches come in. They never know what to expect from a guy like Nathan Walker, and they don't know much about him. And, maybe the first couple of games he's in the lineup, he's out of the lineup, and then all of a sudden he never leaves the lineup. And he's in there every single night. You know what you're going to get from this kid every single game from an effort standpoint. He brings that. He brings other players into the fight. He's a physical player. He plays with energy. He can get nasty. He chirps. He'll fight. He'll chip in with some offense occasionally. But he's a smart player. He puts pucks in good areas. He doesn't hurt you. He's not a liability. He wins battles. Man, I got all the time in the day for guys like Nathan Walker. I really do. So, as long as the Blues get the goaltending, consistent goaltending, they should be in decent shape. Hockey Sense, as always, is brought to you by First Community. And we've got Jeff Marek coming up here shortly, so I don't want to take any more time before we get to Jeff, because lots of stuff to get into with Jeff Marek. But First Community, the only place you should be doing your banking is at First Community. So I will say this here in 2025, cheers to more convenient banking. You want convenience, you want convenient banking, well, you'll get that in 2025 from First Community. The team at First Community, They want to wish you a happy new year, let you know that they're excited to start the year with even more convenient locations. We need more locations. The newest O'Fallon, Missouri branch located on the Caledonia Parkway off Interstate 64 at the Winghaven exit. So it's very convenient. You know where that is. If you live out in that area, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They also have the new Florissant branch, which is located on Howder Shell Road in North County. That's over 40 locations to serve you in 2025. No matter where you live, there is a First Community branch that is near you. For a full list of locations and hours, visit firstcommunity.com. We love everything about First Community. Lordo's Diamonds, get that special someone, something special in your life. I was there, man. I made my wife very happy for the holidays, got her a new bracelet. You should too. If you're looking to pop the question, hey, Valentine's Day is right around the corner as well. They've been in business for over 70 years. So take advantage of everything Lordo's Diamonds has to offer. 314-432-8008, right next to Truffles in the heart of the Dew. Mike and Jimmy Lordo, man, they've been doing this forever. Nobody does it better. So if you come in there with a $100,000 budget, or if you come in with a $500 budget, guess what? You're going to be treated the exact same. And they don't treat you any differently. It's like a great coach will treat the superstar players no different than he treats the fourth line guy that's in and out of the lineup. Everybody gets treated the same. And that's what happens with Lordo's Diamonds. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Download that app and do it today. They've got so many great deals that call them steals. So many of the locations, by the way, have drive-through locations or curbside pickup. So you never even have to get out of your car. I mean, how nice is that with your friends over there at Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop? Don't sleep on the party goods and the paper goods and the all the decorations and all that stuff too. I know they've got the beer, wine, and the booze, but if you're having Valentine's Day parties, if you have birthday parties coming up, whatever it is, get all your paper goods over there at Dirt Cheap Fun too. They've got a great selection of party supplies and paper goods and all that type of stuff. Paper plates, decorations, plastic forks, all that type of stuff. Whatever you're looking for. Don't tell me it's not good for the environment and everything. I get it, but this is exactly what you want out of a convenience store. Nobody does it better than Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop, baby. Four Hands Brewing Company, taking St. Louis to the next level, one craft beer at a time, and one Cam and Strick Mango Lemonade Hard Seltzer at a time. Hey, we're going to be out at that bar, Cam and I, Hat Tricks, and we'll be drinking some seltzers out there coming up January 20th. We'll give you more information on the Cam and Strick podcast coming up as well. January 20th. It's a 5 o'clock local time start out in Vegas. Cam and I will be out there, so hopefully you come out and hang out with us at Hat Tricks coming up on January 20th. We'll give you more information about that. But Four Hands Brewing Company, they've got the incredible location, 1220 South 8th Street in downtown St. Louis. Beautiful location in Kirkwood, which is absolutely incredible. They've got the fire pits in the back of the restaurant. You can hang out outside and just chill. Food from Peacemaker there as well. Food from High Point at the Chesterfield location. So check that out. Want to give a shout out to my boy Kevin Lemp too, man, who just rang the bell. He has defeated cancer, and so happy for the Lemp family and certainly for Kevin and everything he's done for our community here in St. Louis. Everywhere you go, it looks like or seems like it's being sponsored by Four Hands Brewing Company. They've got new locations popping up everywhere, like I mentioned, Kirkwood, Chesterfield, downtown. They've got a new location coming at the St. Louis Lambert Airport. This guy is constantly working. Nothing will set him back. This guy is a tireless worker. He's passionate about what he does, and I'm so happy that he is feeling good, he's healthy, and he was able to ring the bell. And happy for his family. So we're thinking about Kevin and obviously the entire family here in 2025, and couldn't have been more excited to see him ring that bell, man. So great job, Kevin. We're thinking about you, buddy, and health and happiness here in 2025. All right, let's take a break. Jeff Marek, man, he's going to be our guest this week. Long conversation coming up with the one and only Jeff Marek joins me next. I'm Andy Strickland. This is Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Don't go anywhere. All right, back here in Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Great to have you with us, as always. Our first show here in 2025. If you're going to have a first show, why not bring in the one and only Jeff Marek to kick things off here in 2025 with a very bright green screen in the background. Jeff, I got to tell you, man, We've done a million of these over the years. We've never done one in person, by the way. I've never really looked at your face before. You'd never really looked at mine. Not when we're talking to each other, at least. So this is a little bit different. It's a little bit awkward, but it's all good, man. It's just like old times. Great to see you.
What do you make of the green, by the way? I'm going to try to steer this into one very quick, specific conversation. What do you think of the green?
I don't mind it at all. It's got a little Kelly green kick to it. And listen, it pops, Jeff. And so I don't know what you're going for, but I do like it.
So here's what I'm going for. You're a TV guy, so you know this. I have a beef about how hockey uses colors. Now, as a TV guy, let me lead you down a path. Let me lead the witness here, Andy. What is the worst color for television? The absolute worst color for TV?
Man.
I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with white.
Okay.
Right? You're always told, like, don't wear white on TV because it washes.
Yeah.
The getting white balance is always a big issue, right? So unlike other sports, and I've banged this drum for years, and I always get resistance normally from the traditionalists. White is the harshest color for your eyes. And one of the reasons why I think, like, golf is always the example that I raise. Like, I don't like golf. I'm not a golfer. I always say the best 2 balls I hit is when I step on a rake. I don't enjoy golf, but when I see golf on television, I'll stop and I'll watch it because it relaxes my eyes. The greens relax my eyes. I'll watch baseball games. I'm a big fan of baseball, but I'll stay and I'll watch it always because, 1, I like the game, but 2, the green relaxes my eyes. Football is the same way. Basketball with rich browns and different colors, that relaxes your eyes. In hockey, we put the worst color in the world for TVs, for screens, for anything. We splash it all over. There is white ice. One of the teams are wearing white jerseys and socks and helmets, etc. We put so much white on the screen that the first thing you do when you're a new fan, you come to hockey, the first thing your eyes do is this. Oh, that's harsh. It's not an inviting color by any stretch of the imagination. I'm the one that's always lobbying to change the colors either of the jerseys, go with like a blue versus red if you have it, or a green versus yellow or whatever, because we tend to take the worst color for someone's eyes and maximize it on the screens. We don't make our game visually inviting like other sports do. Do you have a thought on that one, Andy? I know it's not a very popular opinion, but as a TV guy, I'm curious what you think of this.
Well, listen, I'm going to preface it by saying it's an hour earlier here, Jeff. So just, you're making me think here now and really get and try to make some sense of this. But I would agree with you. I mean, listen, when you watch sporting events outside of hockey and basketball, I guess every surface that they play on is green, right? So, I mean, people go outside to relax. The grass is green. Green is a very relaxing color. And listen, I like it, I don't mind the white jerseys. I just want to see NHL teams wear the white jerseys at home, Jeff. That's the different conversation. I want white jerseys at home.
I think you can mix it in a little bit every now and then, but let's say you have like a St. Louis Detroit game. Do you not want to see like blues versus red? Like if you're going to keep the white ice, okay, make the concession. Do you not want to see blues versus reds? Like you go back to that Winter Classic with Toronto and Detroit. One of the things that really popped for it was Detroit was wearing red and Toronto was wearing blue. It looked fantastic.
I don't see that too often.
There's no one team. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, but you just don't see it. I'm very sort of sensitive to, how people perceive the game.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think for newer hockey fans, if you're trying to attract new audience, we don't make it easy on people's eyes. That's why I have the green background. First of all, I think it's an underrepresented color in hockey in general. And 2, I just think that it's a more inviting color than just white.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. We all like green. The Blues actually have a third jersey. It's not even a third jersey. It's one of their 20 jerseys. So I don't know where it ranks in terms of the order, but they have that blue and red, that old school throwback jersey that they wore in the Gretzky era back in the day. And they've worn it, I think, once this season. They wear it a couple times every year. You want to talk about a great jersey on television in terms of how it contrasts with the white ice. It's incredible looking on TV. I love the jersey growing up. I really did. A lot of people hated it here in town, but I think people are starting to, listen, whenever it's a throwback, they bring it back, people start to appreciate it a little more.
Yeah, no, I hear you. You know, one thing that while we're on the conversation about jerseys and uniforms and outfits, was there much conversation? Because there was at least a little bit of conversation, certainly with some people that I talked to from that team. The Winter Classic St. Louis Blues logo, a little bit close to the Toronto Scepters of the PWHL. Is there any conversation about that in St. Louis? Because if you put the two side by side, it's like, that's a tight turtleneck right there.
What do you mean? Like the St. Louis, the way it's written across the crest?
The helmet logo.
Yeah, got you on the helmet.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll have to look at that.
Have a peek at it.
I will.
It's as we like to say in the industry, Andy, greatness borrows, but genius steals. You tell me whether this is greatness or genius.
So what team
is pretty close?
What team was it in the PWHL?
Toronto Scepters.
Toronto team.
Have a look at the logos.
No, I will. I'll check that out. I don't know how much the league is involved with that versus the team and vice versa. I have no idea how that plays out. When it's a league event like that, I'm sure the league has sure to do with it. But the jersey got a lot of attention. I don't know what you thought about the jersey. It was the first time the Blues had ever had a jersey of it where the blue note wasn't on the crest of the sweater. It said St. Louis. They had a blue note on the shoulder, and it was an actual rendition of a jersey that was created back in the 60s that they never ever wore. So I guess this was the proper time to bust it out. But I don't mind the off-white color with the blue and the yellow. It popped pretty good. And I will say this about the Winter Classic. I don't know your thoughts about the Winter Classic, Jeff, but when you're there at the event, it's quite the spectacle, man. It's so much fun being at the event, I think, versus trying to watch it on television and really appreciate everything that comes with it.
I think as a TV event, I mean, it's not exactly it's not must see television anymore. Some of the original ones and some of the novelty ones certainly were, but I always maintain this: every single market should get one of these eventually. Every single, because to your point, as far as a live event goes, it's spectacular. There is nothing like it. The NHL has absolutely hit a home run. As far as if you're tuning in to watch a hockey game where the guys are going 100%, it's not going to happen because all the conditions are different. And you're going to get about, what do you figure, Andy, like 85% hockey. You're not going to get the 100 you normally get at an NHL game, but that's fine. That's baked into the pie. What has become, interestingly enough, what the Winter Classic has become, it's become a box for players. When you turn pro, you join the NHL, there's a number of boxes. You want to check the biggest box is the Stanley Cup. There's a number of things you want to achieve by the time your career is done. And over the years now, when you talk to player after player, one of the things that everybody wants, one box that everybody wants to have checked is, did I play in a Winter Classic? Did I play in an outdoor game? Was I part of the big spectacle where all eyes were on this outdoor game? Was I part of that live event? That's become a huge thing for the players, as you well know. And as far as a live event goes, it's outstanding, and everything around it and all the hype and all the different sideshows that go along with it really, really make it special for that market. And that's why I say every single market should have this experience at least once, because to your point, it's fantastic. It's a great event. As far as a TV spectacle goes, take it or leave it. Some like it, some don't. I'll always have at least a peek at the Winter Classic every year. But as far as it being a premium TV event, it's no longer that. But as far as the live event, it's great for the local market.
Yeah, no, it was appointment television early on. Crosby Dewey shootout with the snow coming down and all that. It was
Snow Globe game.
It was appointment television. But I will say, talking to players privately, they absolutely loved it. More so than the Minnesota game a couple years back, where it was so cold. Yeah. But this is Wrigley Field. It's different. So many Blues fans were there. I mean, it truly was split in half. And you could see the players walking out to the rink, Jeff, and it's a long walk. And they had the national anthem, and you've got the fireworks going and the planes flying over. It was emotional for a lot of players. I talked to a couple of guys yesterday who said they got teary-eyed just listening to the national anthem and just kind of going over in their head, everything that it takes to get to this level and to make it to this moment. I think everything kind of comes full circle. A lot of things go through their mind. They start thinking about different things. And that was an emotional walk up to the rink yesterday. So, hey, if it can do that, if it can create a tearjerker and bring out the emotions in the players, then obviously that's a positive too. It was a great game. Chicago's not very good, Jeff. They've got a lot of issues. I mean, what's your take on Bedard here on year 2? I mean, people I think are using their criticism in the wrong way. You know, it's now become a Celebrini versus Bedard. People are like, oh, Bedard, he's not as good as Celebrini. I think as opposed to just saying, hey, Celebrini, his greatness is unbelievable. If you go back and watch Bedard's highlight reel from a year ago, I mean, the plays he made as a rookie last season were absolutely incredible. He doesn't have much to play with right now, and he's not playing at the level that you expect from him anyway. But is this going to set him back being in this environment right now in Chicago? Or do you have any issues whatsoever with him or no?
No, I don't think so. I mean, listen, go to Seattle and ask Matty Beniers how much different the second season is than the first season. And he's still trying to, recapture that magic he had in his rookie year. Second season's always tougher. I do appreciate and understand that perhaps it's unfair. But I mean, when you're talking about, a first overall draft pick and then the following year, another number 1 overall draft pick, I think the comparisons are going to be inevitable, specifically when they come from the, geographically the same part of the world.
Yeah.
And, grew up, nuzzling shoulders with each other. I look at it like this. I think that Macklin Celebrini will be the more complete player, but I do think that Connor Bedard will be the more spectacular offensive player once the Chicago Blackhawks sort of round out all the players around him. And you're right, like there's not a lot of there with the Chicago Blackhawks. And this is the reminder, and this is what scares managers and scares teams all over the NHL. When you do the complete strip down rebuild, it takes a long time. And it's really frustrating. Every time I hear a fan say, oh, this team's no good, stay away from the mushy middle, strip it right down to the nuts and bolts and build from there.
No way.
I would say to myself, be careful what you're asking for. Because that takes a long, it's not just, technology, Andy, has, our phones have all, given us an unrealistic expectation of how quickly things can change and how quickly things can improve and how quickly we can fix things. You can't fix a hockey team or any sports team overnight. Hockey takes a long time because not one player is going to directly impact your fortunes from season to season. So I understand the frustration that Bedard is having. Listen, I was listening to Pat Maroon on Morning Cup of Hockey on Thursday morning, and he was, talking about how, he felt awful about their performance at the Winter Classic. They got to turn things around. This isn't the way that their season was supposed to go for the Chicago Blackhawks. I think everybody's looking at Connor Bedard and saying, geez, tough season, kid, but it's a hurdle for him to jump over. He had some tough years in Regina playing with the Pats in the Western Hockey League, so it's not anything that he's not used to. He's, his reputation is he's the kid that doesn't bail. A lot of kids in that situation in Canadian junior hockey would have said, get me to a better team. And he had the opportunities a number of times to jump to better teams, force a trade. He would never do it. He's the guy that doesn't bail. He's the guy that embraces challenges. So I think that we look at Connor Bedard, we say, yeah, it's been a tough second season here for him. He's going to be fine. This is more about what Kyle Davidson as a general manager can do to help this team take that next step. And I think the one thing that we do need to remember as well, we always talk about development being, it's not a straight line. Not only is it not a straight line, I always look at it, not just peaks and valleys, but it's a bunny hop. That's what it is. You take 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back and 1 step forward and 2 steps back and 4 steps forward and 2 back. That's the way development is for hockey players and for teams as well. And I think that's the lesson to learn here. I will say one thing about Celebrini in San Jose.
Ooh, he's so good.
I don't know about it. I don't know about you, Andy, but I can't remember the last time I was this excited to watch a team that's so bad. Make no mistake about it. Sharks are a bad team, but I can't stop watching because Celebrini does something. Or Askarov, last Saturday against Calgary, and Dustin Wolf is just one save better, does something spectacular. There's the Lund line has been fantastic for the San Jose. There's always something in the game that gives you that hint at what's coming in the future. So, and I don't know, maybe you have an answer for it, but I can't remember the last time I was so charged to watch a team as bad as San Jose. Look, they may draft first overall again. And if they do, they'll pick up, I would imagine they take Matthew Schaefer, and then all of a sudden you have like a franchise blue liner as well to go along with Celebrini and Askarov, and you have the 3 power positions taken care of. It's a fascinating team to watch. They're really bad, folks, but they're so much fun to watch.
Yeah, no, they're fun to watch because of him. And Logan Couture, obviously, he's been around for a long time. He's not playing. He's been hurt. But Jamal Mayers, who I do this show with, who is doing radio with San Jose this season, during training camp, Logan Couture came up to him, and of course they were former teammates, and he said, listen, this kid at 18, we're 2 weeks into camp. He's already our best player that we have in this organization. He's our best player. And he is the best player, man. You watch him play. But Bedard obviously has to pick it up. Kyle Davidson has got to figure it out, and you're 100% right, man. I mean, it's one thing Doug Armstrong talks about all the time. It's, he calls it a transition when you go from being a powerhouse to a, Stanley Cup contender, knowing you have to rebuild, but you can do it in different ways. And I think if you transition versus completely strip it down and rebuild, then I think you keep your fans locked in. You keep your owner a little more happy probably because, you're still packing the house, and, you're still giving that fan base belief that you have a chance, and giving the players that belief that they have a chance as well. So to make the playoffs, that is. So anyway,
it is a tricky needle to thread, though, right? Like I look at the Pittsburgh Penguins and say, like, Kyle Dubas is trying to thread like the finest needle here.
You can't do it with 38-year-olds. Yeah, I mean that's tough.
Well, but
yeah.
But the thing is, like, yeah, you're sensitive, like, and certainly Fenway Sports is sensitive about, like, making sure that there's fans in the building, all at the same time trying to build up, the farm team and build up the prospect pipeline all at the same time while trying to remain somewhat competitive here. It's hard, man. Like, teams now more than ever are terrified of the complete teardown. Go ask people in Montreal, right? I mean, how many times has Columbus gone through this? Go ask people in Columbus,
man.
Go ask the San Jose Sharks. Go ask Pat Verbeek and the Anaheim Ducks how hard this is.
No,
easy.
And I'm gonna see Ottawa tonight, and they're trying to get back in the playoffs. Buffalo, we just saw recently, and they've been at this for a long time. They can't seem to figure it out. They lost a terrible game to Colorado last night. They were up. They gave up 4 goals in the third period. You had that situation going on with Scott Wedgwood too. But getting back real quick, you can send that message to the fans that, hey, we're still trying to win. But when you're the oldest team in the league and you're missing the playoffs year in and year out, I think that message becomes a little tougher to sell. If you've got some young players that you're playing who have a lot of promise and a lot of upside, then I think that can, it's a little easier to sell the message that way versus losing with an aging team, even if they're legendary players,
Yeah, I get it. I think in Pittsburgh's perfect world, there's this transition where Malkin, Letang, and Crosby all retire as Pittsburgh Penguins, and there's that next group that is ready to take over. If you look at the way that Dubas is doing it in Pittsburgh right now, whether it's, Tomasino or Joseph or Glass, it looks as if the Pittsburgh Penguins right now are the team of second chances. Like, I know we're focusing on, like, to your point, like the older guys, the late 30 dudes. To me, the most interesting thing about the Pittsburgh Penguins here is the second chance guys here. It looks as if Dubas is saying, okay, if you're in between the ages of 23 and 26, and it hasn't run, you're a high pick, and it hasn't worked out with the team that drafted you, let us be this guy needs a change of scenery team.
Yeah.
It seems as if that's what Dubas is sort of operating here. Like, he's got a lot of balls in the air. There's, to your point, the late 30s guys, there's the second chance guys, and then there's the pipeline guys and the guys going through Wilkes-Barre as well. Like, if anything, I've always maintained that Kevin Cheveldayoff, the Winnipeg general manager, has the toughest job as a GM in the NHL, getting and keeping players in a really challenging market and not exactly a destination place, but maybe the one GM who's trying to pull off the toughest balancing act is Kyle Dubas with the Pittsburgh Penguins, because he's got so many different balls in the air.
Yeah, who wants to be the guy to come in and you're moving on from legendary players, but you bring in the Eric Carlsons and some of those guys, like you just wonder if those were the right moves. But you're right in terms of Cheveldayoff, because that cap is not going down, Jeff. It's going up, and in a market like that, they're going to have to spend money, and the fan base obviously has gone down a little bit. I mean, it's tough to get down to the games there, I guess, and spend the money. I don't understand why the numbers are down as much as they are.
Yeah, well, I think it's a playoff futility, and maybe the fan base feels like they've been false started a number of different times, and they want to see success in the playoffs before they open their wallets again. I'll tell you, we started this conversation by talking about Chicago and the rebuilds and how hard it is. I really do wonder how much Winnipeg, because there were a couple of decisions they had to make a couple of summers ago, and that is Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck. And is it time to move on and trade and start to rebuild and build that next, group around the Cole Perfettis of the world? I think they looked over the cliff and said, this is ugly, that we can't afford to have costume party nights where everybody comes dressed as an empty seat. We can't afford that as an organization. And I think that directly impacted those monster contracts that they handed out to Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck. Because I think they really thought about it. Like, okay, we need to rejuvenate this team, youth movement, all et cetera. And then looked at what a rebuild would mean for them financially and said, we can't do that here in Winnipeg. We still need to keep a competitive team on the ice.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. How's Canada feeling this morning?
I was waiting for that.
The reaction. I wanted to bring you on to talk about the World Juniors. We got sidetracked and started talking about other things. People are like, okay, are you guys going to get to Canada here? I would not want to be Dave Cameron this morning, the head coach of Hockey Canada. And he's probably not doing himself any favors, Jeff, just in terms of the way he's answering questions. And I guess he's not answering or providing the answers that people want to hear right now after Canada gets bounced in the quarterfinals for the second consecutive season. But it just felt like they could never find their groove from the very beginning, obviously losing to Latvia. There was controversy about who was left off the roster. How did you view this team? Did you feel like they were truly not capable, but, should have been considered a heavyweight entering this tournament?
I think that when you're icing Team Canada at this tournament, the expectation is always gold. That is the expectation. They've fallen short again this season, bounced in the quarterfinals, as you point out, by Czechia. I think a few things here. One, and I don't exactly know where or why this changed, but after, let's go back to the 2006 Olympic Games. So 2002 was great for Canada, both on the men's side and the women's side as well. At Salt Lake City, Canada wins gold. And then 2006 in Italy happens, and it's a flame out by Canada. And Hockey Canada, at that point, changes their philosophy. And we saw the effects of it right away in Sochi. Hockey Canada's philosophy of roster construction changed from let's ice an NHL-style team to this motto. It's a very simple motto, and this is what Hockey Canada followed after Italy. Skill adapts. That was the motto. Skill adapts. Let's not overthink things here. Let's just get the best collection of hockey players and assume that because they are the best collection of hockey players, that their skill can adapt to any situation. Oh, you're a first-line 22-minute a guy, player with your club team in junior hockey in the Western League OHL or QMJHL. Yeah, you know what? You're going to get 8 minutes on the fourth line, and here's what you're going to do. But they're comfortable doing that because skill adapts. And that was the philosophy. And that carried Hockey Canada to great distances in a lot of different tournaments, not just the World Championships or the Olympics, etc., but also carried them through tournaments like the World Juniors, the U18s, the Hlinka, etc. But it seems as if this time around, specifically, Andy, they went back to creating what they thought was going to be successful, which is an NHL-style team. These are our goal scorers. This is what our second line does. These are our checkers. Here's our forward. They went back to that old philosophy. Now, they did change a few things, too, after the flame-out last year against the Czechs in the quarterfinals. They named the coaching staff early. This was a coaching staff that talked about how they knew this age group better than any age group, period. And they brought back, summer showcase, etc. This was a team that was built for this tournament because last year was such an embarrassment for Hockey Canada. But they went back to the old philosophy of this needs to be our heavy line, this needs to be our skill line, this needs to be our goal scoring line, as opposed to just we're going to grab the best collection of players here from a skill point of view and put them on the ice in a short tournament and see what happens, which has generally carried Hockey Canada very well after 2006. I think we all have a lot of questions about, Canadian discipline. Penalties really dog this team. Like, you can complain about double IHF officiating all you want, and you follow this game a long time, not just NHL, like domestically, but internationally as well. The officiating standard on the IIHF is a lot different than it is in North America. You get it, and I think anyone that watches for any significant time understands the standards are different. So nobody should be surprised. Canada cannot complain about penalties. You know what is going to get called, and you know what is not going to get called. That was one of the major issues. Outside of the construction of the roster, the discipline issue for Canada was a major factor here. And I had this conversation with someone who had been through the Hockey Canada program, who said the one thing that this team has completely lost is the Canadian identity at this tournament has always been controlled aggression. It's been a really aggressive, tough team, highly skilled, certainly, but it's been tough. It's walked the line, but it's never stepped over. Like, you'll recall, I think it was 2006 when Brent Sutter put Steve Downey on Team Canada. Everyone was like, what are you doing? It's going to be a parade to the penalty box. And just like, he's wild, he's reckless, he's violent, he's all those things. Brent Sutter got him to walk that line. Hockey Canada always got their kids to walk that line and not step over. This team they did just step over, they leaped over it like it was a hurdle. Undisciplined, reckless, sloppy, lazy, reactive penalties that kept Canada behind the 8 ball in almost every single game.
Yeah.
I think the other thing too is you have, it's going to sound harsh, but it's true. You have a head coach and a general manager and one of the assistant coaches who are all in their late 60s. I think it's time for new ideas with Hockey Canada. I think there needs to be a different philosophy of roster construction. And I think there needs to be a skewing younger of those that select the team and those that coach the team. I think that might be coming out of this loss for Canada, Andy, one of the biggest narratives here. Mm-hmm. It's time for new ideas for Hockey Canada.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people are echoing those comments. There's so much to uncover. I mean, your best players are taking terrible penalties also, right?
Oh.
I mean, it's your best players who are doing it. Losing Matthew Schaefer obviously didn't help. That would have it would have been nice to see him play throughout the tournament. And for those who don't get to watch him play on an everyday basis, just to get your eyes on him.
It's good.
Goaltending, had its moments where it was good and then where it wasn't good enough, to overcome some of the other deficiencies that they had as a team. They just felt out of sync. What's your take of the lack of practice time? I mean, are people reaching? Is that real criticism that is justified?
It is.
Okay.
It is. I think it is, especially when you're having a hard time finding chemistry, or when the team, like, this was obvious almost right away that this team was going. I mean, outside of the Finland game, although there were some clues in the Finland game as well. But when you look at, Latvia should have been a wake up call. Like, okay, we need to get on the ice here. We need to figure things out. Right? The power play was an issue. You mentioned the discipline was an issue as well, but they just could never get on the same page and find the right combinations. Now, they didn't even try to take the low-hanging fruit that was there at all. Like, anyone who follows junior hockey knows that, maybe the best duo across the CHL is Carson Rakop, who's a prospect for the Seattle Kraken, and Porter Martone, who's eligible for the draft this year. Could go as high as 3, maybe even higher, but he'll certainly be a top 4 pick. They play for the Brampton Steelheads of the OHL. Together, I think it's in 20 games, they've scored collectively 41 goals. Like, there is something there with those two.
Yeah.
They were never used together. As a matter of fact, as Porter Martone drew back into the lineup against Czechia after being scratched, the guy that came out was Carson Rakop. And we all looked at this and said, here's a team that can't score. You got the best goal-scoring combination in junior hockey sitting right there. And you're not even putting them together. They're not even in the lineup at the same time. And where Martone was in, where Carson Rakop was out. Like at every single, and then practice is a big thing. The discipline was a big thing. I don't think people are reaching by saying, they needed to practice more, because it became pretty obvious they were having a hard time finding chemistry.
Yeah.
Like, I understand. You're pulling players from all over the place and spitting them together for this tournament. I get it. which is why practice, I think, is more important than ever. And Hockey Canada seem just to value rest. Oh, they're exhausted. Oh, they're tired. I think that's lazy thinking. I really do. This is a team that needed to practice, that needed to get out there, and it just did. And I'll tell you what, one of the worst looks was Dave Cameron, the head coach, saying, "I can't do anything about the penalties. I can't do anything about the discipline. I'm not going to say
all the stuff.
It's a short tournament. They know what a penalty is, and it's up to them to make the decision." And I kept saying to myself, you know who can't do anything about the discipline? Me, because I'm not the coach.
Yeah.
I just watch the games and bark about it. You're the coach.
Yeah.
Like, even if you, like, Andy, like, it's stunning. Even if you do believe that, why you would put that out there? Like, I'm thinking to myself, what is Dave Cameron saying? Like, even if you believe that that's true, even just say that, we've addressed it eternally and we'll have no further comment, whatever. The player knows what's happening. We've addressed it. Instead of just throwing your hands up in the air and saying, I don't know, they got to figure it out. Like, the whole tournament is like a collection of Hockey Canada stepping on rakes. That's what it was. Like, this was like a week and a half of Canada stepping sideshow Bob style. Just stepping on a rake, stepping on a rake, stepping on a rake, stepping on a rake. There's so many self-inflicted wounds here that, the full Hockey Canada autopsy is going to be fascinating to see what changes come out of it. Because I think there will be changes.
You follow junior hockey very closely. Who was the biggest omission? And what were your thoughts on the roster when they made the announcement? Did you like the roster coming into the tournament?
I still think this would have been a different team if Matthew Schaefer did get injured. And I'm glad you mentioned him earlier, because he would have been an absolute difference maker, certainly in that overtime against Latvia. But there were a few. To me, Zane Parekh was a big one, defenseman, first-round draft pick of the Calgary Flames.
Yeah.
It
wasn't very good, Jeff,
The power play was bad. We'll be blunt, and maybe you can make the argument that certain players were out of position, and I'll listen to that argument very much. Zane Parekh was a big one, because if Matthew Schaefer didn't go out, you didn't have anyone that could do any of the things, like even remotely, that Matthew Schaefer could do. Had a hard time offensively, a hard time making plays to get the puck out of their own zone. That's where a guy like Zane Parekh can really help. And I think the Michael Misa mission is, to be blunt, embarrassing. Like, on a team that's just starved for goals, you favored heaviness over skill. To me, the Michael Misa mission, I get it. Like, a lot of coaches will default, because this is a tournament generally where the collection of 19-year-olds wins, but that's not always true. And Michael Misa's, for your audience, Michael Misa is a draft eligible player. Again, he'll be a top 5 pick. He's going to go real high, probably, maybe as high as third, maybe even as high as second. I don't think he'll get the first overall, but nonetheless, on a team that's offensively challenged as Canada was, leaving Michael Misa at home, to me, is a shocking omission. And as much as we like to say, again, I'm going to refute myself here for you, Andy. As much as we like to say this is a tournament where the best 19-year-olds win, I think USA has the best team. And they're returning 10 players who last year were 18 years old. And they look dynamite. Okay? And they won the thing last year with a collection of 18-year-old hockey players as well. So I think the old thinking, this like table hockey, everything has its lane type thinking, really needs to change. And the old stereotypes and old philosophies of what is successful in this tournament for Hockey Canada needs to change, because everybody else has changed. And generally, Canadians, and I'm one of them, generally Canadians are the last to the dish, and they're the last to admit that things need to change.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
So USA, they'll take on Czechia. Czechia obviously is a strong team. They're good, too. It's not just like, Canada didn't get bounced by Kazakhstan there in the quarterfinals. I mean, Czechia is legit. They got a lot of future NHL players on that roster.
They do. Watch the diving. Okay. Just heads up.
Yeah.
That Czechia tends to go down a little bit light, let's just say.
All right.
Like to me, this is USA's tournament to lose.
It should be.
And if Trey Augustine, listen, Augustine had a tough round robin.
Yeah, he did.
Like, there are times where we're saying, like, man, and he's for your audience, he's a Detroit Red Wings prospect. He's gonna have an amazing career.
Michigan State goaltender, yeah.
Michigan State, yeah. So, if Augustine can continue to play the way that we know he can. And that'll be a good goalie matchup. Like Michael Rabel is a really good goaltender. All 6'6" of him. He's a Utah prospect, plays at UMass. He's really good too. So this could be a really good goaltending duel. But, between that BC line, and man, does Danny Nelson look good, and Cole Eisman's got the best shots in the entire tournament. This, and to say nothing of Cole Hudson, who I know we all expected Zeev William to be the best defenseman for USA, and all of a sudden Cole Hudson saying, hey, don't forget about me over here. And if you're the Washington Capitals, you're looking at Cole Hudson and you're looking at Ryan Leonard, and you're saying to yourself, like, the future's looking really bright here for the Washington Capitals. USA is loaded. Right now. I don't like that.
Could be the first. Who's the first overall pick for you?
For me, it's Matthew Schaefer, but I have a bias towards defensemen.
Okay.
I really do. I have a hard time looking at Matthew Schaefer and saying, you know what? Yeah, we don't want that for the next 10 or 12 years on our team. But you're right. Like James Higgins, who plays at BC, he's phenomenal. Remarkable skater, remarkable player. Like, we got a wonderful release too. Like, he's a legit shot at going first overall. I wonder if it comes down to need. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're the San Jose Sharks, I don't know how you turn down Matthew Schaefer first overall, but then again, like I've watched this kid, going back to when he played, youth/minor hockey at Halton Hill. So maybe I'm a little bit biased there. I just think that if you have a defenseman that can skate, like, here's one for your audience that they'll appreciate. He skates like Jay Bouwmeester. Like, when you look at him, Andy, do you not see like a Jay Bouwmeester stride? I know naturally when you look at him, you think like, oh, maybe a Jamie Drysdale, but that's just he plays with the Erie Otters, and so you're used to the jersey. I think he skates like Bouwmeester. Like, that's what we're talking about here. And he's not nasty like Pronger, but he has like offensive instincts like Chris Pronger as well. Like, when you start to sandwich the defenseman together that he plays like, you keep saying to yourself, like, how does this guy not go first overall? And then you look at James Higgins playing this tournament and you say, well, how does this guy not go first overall? So to me, it's Matthew Schaefer. Because, one of the hardest things to get is that horse stud blue liner that's with you for 10, 12 years and, racks up, Norris trophies and leads you deep into the playoffs and maybe brings you a Stanley Cup. So for me, the answer is Matthew Schaefer.
All right. Last thing for you, Gavin McKenna. I know he played well, and they, stacked the line there. Probably waited too long to do that.
Yep.
To try to, really create an alpha offensive line of skill players.
Yep.
But you talk about the players who are left off the roster. Do you need 17-year-olds on the World Junior roster? Is it necessary at the expense of some more mature talent who could really make a difference?
It's a great question. And I do agree with you that they waited too long to get Gavin McKenna up to a power position, to get him up to the top line. They overthought this one. Oh, this young man's not ready for it. Gavin McKenna has jumped over every single hurdle that's ever been placed in front of him. And there was no reason to believe that if you put him on a top spot, even to begin the tournament, like we've seen it before where, the 17-year-old starts as the 13th forward, and then by the end, they're on the top line. See Crosby in 2005 in Grand Forks. So it shouldn't surprise anybody that was the way that things went here. I would still have Gavin McKenna just because he is that skilled. Is he a little bit slight? Yeah, maybe. But he's always overcome. Like, he's treating the Western Hockey League like it's his own personal beer league right now. And again, I come back to, was Hockey Canada, when they A, selected the team, and then B, made lineup decisions, really putting the accent on skill. And if you look at how they used Gavin McKenna and how long it took them to put him in a more prime spot, the answer is no. They didn't pick based on skill, and they probably took too long to get Gavin McKenna up to a spot where he could significantly contribute offensively, especially when it became obvious early that this was going to be a team that was going to have to grind to score every single goal.
Yeah. All right. Well, he'll be the face of the team next year. There's no doubt about it.
He will.
All right. Last thing. Hey, listen, promote everything you're doing right now, Jeff. On the sheet.
Got a few things. Yeah, a few things. I'll hit you with the sheet. So the sheet is our daily show that I host 3:00 Eastern. Monday to Friday on our Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. Afterwards, it is wherever you get your favorite podcasts, whether it's Spotify, whether it is Apple Pods. Take your pick. So that's what I got going daily. There's going to be a couple of other things that are going to be announced shortly that I'm doing. One involving prospects, Andy, that I think you'll probably perk your ears up to as well. But the main thing is the Daily Face-Off show, The Sheet, and that is Monday to Friday at 3. And then I do a blog every Monday that you can find at dailyfaceoff.com.
Okay. Love it, man.
Thanks, bud.
Always great to hear your voice and your knowledge and to see your green screen and everything else, Jeff. So
I got you fooled, Andy. I got you fooled, right?
So you got a busy day, man. So you'll do the sheet later on today.
I will do the sheet later on today.
It's like a long show, but it's on YouTube, right?
Yes, sir. Daily Face-Off. It's on our Daily Face-Off YouTube channel. And then afterwards, much like you, because I know you are like me in one very specific way, you're a hockey Uber.
Oh, yeah.
You are a hockey dad who travels, who lives life in the car, and you live your life drinking bad coffee and sniffing Zamboni fumes.
There's no doubt about it.
That is you and me, Andy.
Yeah, so I'll be headed to Toronto early tomorrow, man. Looking forward to that. And and all the best, man. You guys all do a great job at DFO, by the way. I mean, from Frank on down, man, everybody does a great job over there. So it's
thanks, pal.
I've enjoyed it, man. That's my go-to to find out line combinations, by the way. What do the lines look like for the game?
Fast, isn't it? Those guys did such a great job. I really like, as far as like providing resources for hockey fans, I'm with you. Like the guys at the site do a great job. I'm with you on that.
All right. Happy New Year to you, man. Always great to have you.
Thanks, pal.
Hopefully we do it again soon. Take care.
Best to all your audience in 2025. And you too, Andy. Best to your good luck to your kid at the tournament.
Thanks, man. Looking forward to it.
Enjoy Scotia Pond.
See you, buddy. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Jeff Marek, man. Great stuff to get into. I could have gone World Juniors the whole time. I could have gotten into so many different topics around the NHL, but obviously time is the issue. And we'll get him back on and always have great conversations with Jeff. He is truly one of the best in the industry. And I love talking pucks with him. So did you hear what he was saying about that logo with the Blues helmet? The PWHL team from Toronto, I don't know what their logo looks like. I got to look at it. Is it the exact same thing? I'm not sure. But Jeff says it is. I know he follows the women's hockey pretty closely, so we'll take a look at that. Please support all our sponsors. Obviously, our friends over at First Community. They have that Christmas Club account. So many of us, love the gift giving at Christmas, whether it's for your family or for your friends. It could be just for fun. Many people have that sticker shock. And at some point you get nervous about overspending. And the idea of paying off holiday debt can be stressful. So let me give you a suggestion. Open up a Christmas Club account at First Community. You can automatically put money in the account every month. And by November, you have a nice little stash of cash all saved up for holiday stash or holiday shopping. So you put a little bit of money away each month. And then when it comes to the holidays, guess what? You got a nice stash, and there's your budget for holiday spending. No monthly service fee for this account, and your money even earns interest. So it's a good feeling starting the holidays knowing your part, or that part's already paid. So open up your Christmas Club account and do it today. First Community, baby. Dirt cheap, fun, your one-stop party shop. Four Hands Brewing Company and Lordo's Diamonds. Arco Construction, taking St. Louis hockey to the next level, one ice rink at a time. I was out at that beautiful Centene Community Ice Rink yesterday. Would not be possible without Arco. Would not be possible to have the Maryville University Ice Rink out in Chesterfield without Arco. They built the Shark Tank. They built the Putt Shack and Topgolf too, so they bring the fun to St. Louis. Arco Construction, John Comlos, Jeff Cook and company, flat out getting it done. All right, we got to get out of here for this edition of Hockey Sense. As always, brought to you by Blue Note Roofing as well. I saw David Novak, my main man, hanging out at the Winter Classic. This guy's the best roofer in the region, without question. He can do it all. Gutters, soffit fascia, windows, new roofing. Hey, check the expiration date on your roofing. Not that there is an expiration date, but I will say that insurance companies may refuse to pay for a new roof if it's 10 years or older. So if you're having roofing issues and you realize, hey, you're getting close to that 10-year mark, call David today. Let him come out and give a free estimate and take care of you. Because once you get past 10 years and you have issues with your roof and you have no choice but to replace your roof, guess what? That insurance company may not pay for it. So call David Novak today and let him help you out with that. 314-920-5713. David Novak, this guy is the man. He's the boss. We love everything David Novak does. 314-920-5713. Call David Novak today. All right, we'll do Hockey Sense again next week. Jamal Mayers will join us. Next week, he's been traveling this week. He's in Toronto with his son. I'll be heading to Toronto. Got my Hockey Club of St. Louis hat right here as the boys are up there playing in a big tournament. But it's Blues in Ottawa tonight, man. Can't wait for this game. We'll see how Ottawa responds after losing to Dallas, and we'll see what you get from St. Louis after coming off of a very, very big emotional high and a big victory over Ottawa. So looking forward to that game tonight at the Enterprise Center. I'm Andy Strickland for Aiden and everybody here at Half Coast Studios, reminding you to keep your head up and your stick on the ice, baby. This has been Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Have a great weekend, St. Louis.